It's time for an odd sock party. Welcome to That's So You, Mrs. You here, also known as Diane. It is Wednesday, the 11th of November, and it has just gone. Trying to see the time. I'm not sure about the time, but I think it's after 10 p.m. or something like that. So I thought, why not do a quick episode, hopefully a quick episode, and let you know what's happening. Just catch up. I'm going to have one finished object to show you, 2 whips, and a little bit of stitch marker related stuff, just some things that I've been working on. If it is your first time watching or you are not yet subscribed, please do click on the subscribe button and also hit the notification button so that you will be aware of all the new uploads that take place. Now that's out of the way, all my details will be flying around on the screen there, so let's now begin. So my finished object, the only one I have right now, is this sweater that I made for Little Miss. It's called the, that's the right way. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. It's the Niveole sweater, and it's designed by Hel Et Zel is the name on the pattern. Lighting isn't too good here, but if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen a picture of it. It's going a bit dark because of the lighting. I finished this about a week ago, and Little Miss wore it on Sunday. She's been wearing it before then, but just here and there, not wearing it properly, just keeping it on whenever I've asked her to wear it for pictures or just to try it on. But Sunday she wore it properly. She really loves wearing this, and has requested that I now make her a long jacket with no zip. I said I can't promise anything, but I would see what I could do, but that would just have to kind of wait for a while. The yarn I use for this is Madeline Tosh sock in the Vermilion colorway. That's the main color, and all these other colors I've added because I only had one skein of this, which wouldn't have been enough. So this and this were both mini skeins from Frank and Skein Yarns. It's a set of mini skeins that I got a very long time ago. And this, which is a darker orange, is a scrap yarn I had left over from the yarn yard. And this sort of maroony red is from Lamington Lass, and the colorway for that was, can I remember that? I can't remember the colorway now, but yeah, that's again scrap yarn. And right at the edge, I'll show you there, right at the edge, I've got yarn from Rosie's Moments, and the colorway for that is the dark side. So having these scraps really helped me be able to finish this. Without these, I would have been stuck, especially this bit right at the end, because I started running low on, I didn't want to have the orangey and pink shades at the end. I wanted it to at least just look like there was a purposeful stripe here with these other colors. So my plan, what I did in the end, if you watched the previous episode, I stopped around here, and then the leftover yarn, the yarn I had left for the Madeleine Tosh I use to work the sleeves, which are very short. That's basically the sleeve, and also the neckline. Then what I had left over, I then did the rest of the hem, and then just added this Rosie's Moments yarn at the end just to lengthen it slightly, because it's designed to roll, to have a rolled hem. I wanted to add a few, just a bit of extra length. So I think I worked an extra, was it 4 or 6 rounds I added just to give it a bit of extra strength. On the shoulders, it has this sort of elongated stitch detail, which I think just adds a nice touch. So that's the only kind of complicated part of the pattern. The rest of the pattern is extremely simple. So if you are looking for a sweater pattern to work, this comes in an adult size as well. This is a great one to start with because the shoulder section adds some interest to it, and it's great for learning a new skill and a new stitch technique. And then the rest is basic, just stocking stitch. And as I've done here, you can customize it with whatever shades you want just to make it your own. So yeah, I don't know if I'll make one. I wouldn't mind making one for myself, but it's not something that's on my to-do list, at least not for now. So that's the only finished object I have. Hopefully soon I will have another one. So on to my whips. The first one is one that, oh goodness me, all these stitches have come off. I haven't worked on this one in some time, mainly because I cast it on so that I could enter it for the, sorry, let me just try and get some of these stitches back on. I cast this on just so that I could enter it initially as the, for the cowl that's being hosted by Decimal Designs, the BIPOC, the BIPOC Mal, which is a mal that's used to highlight designers who are black, indigenous people of color. So yeah, this was my choice for that initially. The pattern is a, sorry, I'm almost done, then I'll show you what I'm doing. The pattern is a cowl / hat. So from the picture that I saw, it's a hat, but the crown of the hat has an opening that you can open up, or you can use the strings or the, not strings, but you know what I mean, the cord to tie it, to cinch it at the top so it can be a hat, or it can be opened up so then it can be worn as a cowl. So I'm doing it so that it can be more of a cowl for this particular one. And this is all I've done so far. That's all I've got to. So just started on, section goes like this, and then the rest of it is worked on top. So this is what makes the brim of the hat if you were to wear it as a hat. I can't remember the designer's name. I'll put her name on the screen. But yeah, I started this initially as an entry for that Mal, but then watching one of her posts on Instagram, I think it was, or was on her podcast, I discovered that this year's Mal is specifically for black designers, knitting or crochet designers. So because this person, though they are a BIPOC designer, they're not a black designer. So I'm still going to work on this, but obviously I can't enter it into the Mal. So I've now started another project which I am entering to the Mal, which I will show you in a moment. So the yarn I'm using for this is one, I believe I showed this in the last, yeah, it would have been the last episode, and it's the Birthday Club yarn from Third Vault Yarns. The base is Caroline DK, and the colorway is Song of Earth, Song of Blood. I think I've got that in the right order. So when I got this, I really did want to either make it into a hat or a cowl. Initially I was thinking more of a hat, but then seeing this pattern I realized I would prefer it to be made more into a cowl, because I'm not hugely a hat person, though I am trying to get more into making hats. But with this particular design, I can do either way. So yeah, so that's all I've got so far. So the more progress will be made on this once I finish the other one. So this one I have got quite into the pattern, and I wouldn't say I'm that far along from the end. I probably would have been very close to the end if I had been working on it for the past few days, but there's a reason why I haven't, and I'll tell you why that is in a moment. So this is the Frozen Pond Cowl. This is where I am up to so far. So, okay, this is gonna get dark because the yarn is dark. I actually have a light here, hold on. Okay, so I've switched on my lamp now and you can see this a lot better. So, oh, before I continue, if you can hear noise coming from the TV, that's because I'm currently in the playroom. Mr. Yu is in the living room, which is just back here, and there's a documentary or something on. So, apologies if you can't hear any noise from there. So, this is the cowl. As I said, it's called Frozen Pond. So it has this moss stitch section here, and then you have this stocking stitch section in the middle going in at an angle, and then more moss stitch at the top. But the great thing about this is, depending on how you wear it, the look slightly changes. So if you wear it with this point at the side, it looks more like that. I thought that's really great. This pattern is designed by Fatimah, who is Disturbing the Fleece on Instagram. There's one or two of her other patterns that I would like to make, but I went with this one because it seemed like it would be a quick make. So that means after this I would be able to, if possibly, find other patterns I could work on. I'm trying to have a few more finished objects lately because I feel my knitting time has dwindled. So I want to actually, if I have a project that I think, okay, I can finish this really quickly, it will give me more motivation to actually work on something and get a few projects out there. But obviously I want them to be things that I'm going to actually use, or that maybe Little Miss will use. So yeah, I'll be happy when this has been finished, which shouldn't be too much longer because it is a quick knit and the pattern itself is very intuitive. Once I'd worked the rounds a couple of times, I knew exactly what to do. So yeah, it's a great pattern for, I would say, an adventurous beginner. Might not be completely beginner friendly because of, like, for full-on first-time knitter friendly, because of the cabling that's involved. But you know, if this isn't your first knitting project, then definitely this would be a great way to get into using, again, different pattern techniques. Yes, the yarn I use for this is, again, 3rd Volt yarns. It's in the this is Caroline DK and it's the Palisite colorway. This I got some time ago as part of the Alchemist Tote Bag Club, and yeah, I just thought this would be a nice, really great project. And I do love the way the colors are working up with the moss stitch and everything. I think this looks great. The original pattern on Fatimah's, on the pattern page, she's used an icy blue shade of yarn, which I think looks great. And if I did have that kind of shade, I probably would have gone for that as well. But I think this looks great too. Okay, so they are my two whips. Other than the pavement sweater, that sweater. the one where the sleeves still need to be done. I haven't worked on that at all. I probably I keep saying this, I pretty much definitely would go back to working on it magic loop, because the needles I'm using are it's the Knit Pro Zings 10-inch circulars, where one needle is slightly shorter than the other. So number one, I'm finding it difficult to hold them properly because of the difference in needle length. And number two, because of the length of the needles, you have to go from the base of the, let me see, just explain with this. So for example, here, you have this section here, which is very, very thin, and the stitches can easily go over that. But then the actual shaft of the needle gets thick very quickly because the needle is so short. So it makes it difficult for the stitches to then easily move onto the actual needle itself. So that's what I'm having difficulty with. And also the needle itself is a sort of satiny metal kind of texture. It's not like a steel sort of one like this, so you don't have that slippage that I'm used to having on the needles that I mostly use. So I'm either going to go back to doing magic loop, even though it was annoying me having to constantly turn it around and push the stitches across, or I will get DPNs. I don't have DPNs in that. Do I not have DPNs? Oh, I might have DPNs in that size. I'll have to check, but if I can see DPNs in that size, I'll move to DPNs at first. Even though I don't particularly like working with DPNs, that would be probably the next best option, other than going back to doing magic loop. And I've just remembered something I wanted to talk about. With this one initially, I did have a bit of trouble working this because the cable length is a bit too big for the circumference of the cowl, and I was having the same issue with getting the stitches of the needle over this part of the needle. So what I did was, as this is being worked in around, this needle is a smaller size than this one. So this is the working needle, the one that the stitches are being worked onto, and this is a 6mm, and this one is a 5mm. So it's a lot easier for the stitches to move on that. So as the stitches are being worked this way, it's a lot easier for the stitches to move across like this. And then I can just feed it onto here as I'm working it. As opposed to doing it this way, at times it would get stuck coming from the thin cable and then going onto this thicker needle shaft. So that's just a tip for anybody who's working on a project using cable needles. If you are, it's not cable, circular needles. If you are working in the round, you can just, would this work on? This would even work if you're working on a project flat, I think. Let me think. You do that, turn it around. Yeah, it would work if you're working on a project on a flat knitting. It would work too, as long as you're using circular needles. I keep saying cable. Circular needles, as long as you're using those, it would work too. So if you find it difficult to push your stitches along onto the needle, on the left needle, just use if you have interchangeable circular knitting needles, just add a needle that's smaller than the main one, so that way it's easier for the stitches to move along. So a nice little tip there. Okay, so now the little project that I've been working on, This is for my stitch markers. I've been thinking of what I can do with my stitch markers to kind of, what's the word? Just kind of reduce the stitch markers I have and just focus on one particular type instead of having a large range of stitch markers. So what I initially did was I took these stitch markers I had previously, which were these sort of like instructional ones, where it tells you like knit, purl, slip stitch knit, SSP or knit two together. I had them in the shop previously, but I took them off because I needed some of the findings last minute to put towards something else. So I've been wanting to put them back into the shop. During that time, I bought myself a UV lamp to use to cure UV resin. So I just gave it a try on this to see how it would look, and I was very, very pleased with the effect. Let me see the best way. So look at it, shiny, shiny, shiny. So I really liked that, but I was thinking adding it onto this because I just wasn't happy with the shaping of some of these. So I've just thought to myself, how else could I incorporate this? And I had been trying to think of ways, well not trying, I had been thinking of ways to incorporate shrink plastic into my stitch markers or polymer clay. And one idea I had was to doing this concept, so instructional stitch markers I think they're called, and then doing something like this where you have them attach the shrink plastic to the clay and then color cover it with the UV resin and cure it, so you get something like this. So this was just a mini thing I did using a portion of my logo just to see how that would work. Now it looks okay. I know you can't see clearly here because it's not focusing. I don't know if I cover my face if that will work. I don't think so, no. With the other side of the camera it does, but not with this one. So it worked okay. The only problem is shaping the clay around the shrink plastic once it has been shrunk. Because I don't know what would happen if I attach it to the polymer clay and put it in the oven, if it will shrink further or if it will crack or something like that. So I had to shape it around and then try and take the shrink plastic off it, but it would always distort the shape of the polymer clay. I tried doing it where I just do a slight indent so that way you get the shape of the shrink plastic, but it was the same thing. And so yeah, it just looks a mess. So I decided, okay, instead of attaching the shrink plastic to the clay, just use the shrink plastic on its own. So I did that using, where are you? Another piece that I made using something that I made from shrink plastic with my logo on it. I just had it here, excuse me. Just had it in my hand. It's falling somewhere. Oh, there you are. Okay, so this was some shrink plastic I did some time ago. I think it was either during the lockdown or before. So I did this, and so I just added the UV resin to it, and it just gives it kind of gives it a little bump at the top, so you can, on the surface, it makes the surface a bit rounded, and then it makes it just nice and shiny. So I thought this would work great. So I could do something like this and also make these as instructional stitch markers. So then I made these, I whipped up some just to see what they would look like. I'll show you some of them, or maybe, let's see which ones I can get. Hold up there. So, one of them I have is this one, which is the make one instruction. You can just about make that out there. And then I used a Posca pen to write the numbering, the instruction on it, and then just do a little design on there. I'm going to share these onto Instagram at some point, so if you follow me on Instagram, you will see that too. And that one is SSP. And we have a knit two together here. With this one, I'm just trying to see what it would look like if the numbers were, if the writing was going across diagonally. And then, oh, dropped one. Yeah, and I did a couple of others. This is a make one right. And I just did different instructions and did different patterns on them just to see how everything would look. So I'm very happy with these. I'm just going to give it another few days just to see how the resin holds up on the shrink plastic. I don't want to do this and then find out a couple of weeks later that it's peeling off or something. I'm just going to wait and see how it holds up and how it still looks after that time, and then also decide whether to do it on both sides or just one. At the moment I did most of them on both sides. Can I find it? I don't know if it's there, but there were 3 of them that I did on both sides just to see how that would turn up. So after doing that, I decided I still wanted to do the polymer clay ones, but again simplify everything and use the resin, the UV resin on the polymer clay. So I've made this as well. I did a few of these and added some resin onto them. I shared a picture of them inside the UV lamp on Instagram. So that's what this one looks like. So yes, these will be going into the store. The instructional ones and the one I've just shown you now, the round one, they will be going on the store at some point. Not straight away. It'll be most likely towards the end of November or right at the beginning of December. I will aim to do that. I just need to work out what's the most effective way to work them, because with the shrink plastic, it's the drawing out of the design, cutting it, and then actually the process of shrinking it. I've tried doing it in my oven. That's fine, but I don't want to have the oven on just for these tiny things. I've tried it in the countertop oven, which is an electric one, and that one, because there's lots of this wind blowing around everywhere, it makes the shrink plastic fly around and the shape isn't always even, sometimes with a few bumps inside there. So the best way to do it is in the oven, but I don't want to constantly have the oven on just for that. So I'll have to see if there's a way I can do it and have as many as possible in the oven, but have them separated in some way. So that's one thing. And then, yeah, so it's just a long process of doing everything step by step. The polymer clay isn't so bad because I can just get bits of clay, put them together and roll them up in a ball. So that one isn't so bad. And baking it cannot be all baked. I can bake so many of them in one go. So again, it's not so bad. And I can use the countertop oven for that too. So yeah, so that's just something I have planned in the works regarding stitch markers. So the ones I have currently, I will be planning to do some sort of mega clearance sale just to get them all out and start afresh and just focus on something more of a what's the word? I can't think of the word now. Just something that's just a reduced amount of stuff and just less things to focus on. Yeah, so talking about the shop, I do have a new release. It is the Fairly Odd Socks ebook is out today, well, which most likely would be yesterday for those of you, if you're watching on the day that this is uploaded. and also the Axis socks pattern has been released as well. I've so far uploaded it onto Ravelry. I'm in the process of what's the word? Having everything sent over from Ravelry to Love Knitting, to Lovecraft as it's called now. So that will be available hopefully tomorrow. When I checked last, it was still sending everything, copying everything over. So that should hopefully be done by tomorrow, and that will be available. And then possibly I will do the same for Etsy as well. Yeah, so I am going to do a video just talking about all the patterns in the collection, and I might include the ones from the first volume as well, just so everything is together. And at the moment you can get 20% off for all the patterns, each individual pattern, or for the whole collection. So do head over to the Ravelry store to make sure that you make full use of that offer. For Lovecraft, I don't know if it is possible to offer discounts, so for that I might just have to do it manually, just put the lower price on manually and then put it back to the original price afterwards. So yeah, so do get those patterns if you are looking for some odd sock fun to get involved with. For those of you who don't know, the Fairly Odd Socks collection is a collection of odd pairs of socks. So each pattern is the socks are kind of the same, but they're slightly different. So each one comes with each foot has its own individual pattern. So you could either work it that way and have two different patterns on each foot, or you can make a pair from each individual pattern within one project. So then effectively you have two patterns there. So if you have the whole collection, there are 4 patterns, but collectively there are 8 different projects you could get out of them, which I think is an absolute bargain. So if you want to have an odd sock party, make sure you get hold of one of those patterns, or even the whole collection itself. I almost forgot to tell you what I'm wearing. First of all, starting with this is the Diamante Shrug. It was feeling a bit cold, so I kind of layered up in this. This is a pattern I released a few years ago. It's nice and cozy. It's a crochet pattern made in DK weight yarn. It is very super simple and quick to work up. This is also in the Ravelry store and on Etsy and Lovecraft, and I believe Folksy as well. So do get your hands on that too. If you want something nice and cozy that you can just throw over yourself when you're in the house, you can put this over your jacket. Sometimes I do put this over my jacket, over my coat when I'm going out if it's a bit nippy. So yeah, it's a nice cozy winter warmer. And also I just want to show off my new earrings. These are from the Afrotude. They are a shop on Facebook. These arrived yesterday. I got another pair as well, which I will try and wear on the next time I'm on. But yes, I really love these. I'm trying to build up a statement earring collection, particularly those that are based on Afro or black themes. So yeah, I'm really happy to have these. Okay. here in the UK, we're moving into the second week of lockdown. Yeah, there's nothing much I can say about it. It is what it is. I'm just happy that the schools are still open. That's the main thing, because I think if they had to close the schools, that would just, I think the kids would be it would just make things more difficult for the kids. And yeah, I think they had long enough of school. Their school seems to be doing quite well. They've organized things so that there's a different entrance for each of the different year groups, and the younger kids start earlier than the older ones, and they're trying as much as possible not to mix up the two year groups. There was actually a case of COVID in their school, in one of the other year groups, so then all the children in that year group had to stay at home for, I think it was 2 weeks, and plus that child's siblings as well. So they've just recently, excuse me, they've recently returned. So it seems like everything is in order. They have a plan in place. So I'm completely happy for them to be in school, and I hope they continue to stay in school until the Christmas holidays and then go back afterwards. So yeah, Mr. Yu is able to continue working because his job is important for the running of the country. He's in construction, and yeah, so this just means I'm able to continue with what I'm doing as well, being with my designing and everything. So for us, everything is well, all of us are well, all of us are fine. And I hope also with you that you are also well, and those of your family and friends are doing well also.